The gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. Higgins, is now recognized.
I thank Chairwoman Maloney and Ranking Member Comer for having this hearing today. Madam Chair, I've been listening to the testimony of my colleagues and the witnesses here today. Here's the glaring message. We don't have the money. We are mortgaging our children, our grandchildren's, our great-grandchildren's future. Congress is mortgaging the future of generations yet unborn. We're $31 trillion in debt. If this body were to run a $1 billion surplus, which it will not do without some serious conservative adjustment, if this body were to run a $1 billion surplus, it would require 31,000 years to address a $31 trillion debt. Shifting to the pandemic and the money that we've spent. Since March of 2020, America has spent $6 trillion just on COVID. That's $6,000 billion. That would be $120 billion for every sovereign state, or broken down by working families. According to the 2020 Bureau of Labor and Statistics, just over 83 million American families had at least one member of the family employed. Every working family could have received 70 grand cash, tax-free. You think maybe that would have helped American working families? America, would you like to receive 70 grand cash? Because Congress has certainly spent that money, and it's your money. There's no such thing as federal money. Every dime that gets spent out of this body is seized from the paycheck of a working American. We are speaking in platitudes here today in this committee that's responsible for oversight for government expenditure. My colleagues across the island of Fantasyland, we don't have this money. Talk about child care and child welfare. Good Lord, what kind of a family would dump unserviceable, crippling debt upon their yet unborn great-grandchildren in order to have solar panels on your roof right now? Some of us are quite passionate about actually preserving our republic and restoring our constitutional rights and freedoms and restoring fiscal responsibility to this body. And Congress talks about trillions of dollars like it's nothing. It's insane. Mr. Jaffe, I'm going to give you my remaining time, sir, a couple of minutes. Just please address, if you don't mind, exactly what kind of actual long-term economic impact these very poorly written and loosely corralled massive spending bills that get pushed through Congress, what is the impact long-term on the American economy for generations to come?
Well, as you said, Representative Higgins, we didn't have this money to spend. And so it's a combination of printing it up and destroying the value of the dollar, and then borrowing it and putting it on future generations. And both of those have serious long-term effects. We're now getting into the period where most of the baby boom generation is retiring. That's going to put a lot of pressure on Social Security and Medicare expenditures through the rest of the 2020s and the 2030s. And we just don't have the gas in the tank right now to finance that sort of thing. So it's very worrying. And I do agree with you that Congress should be a lot more careful with how taxpayer money is being committed.
When the CARES Act was written, which my office participated in, we helped launch the CARES Act. That was a couple of weeks of sleepless nights, bringing 4,500 community banks and credit unions online to service SBA product that they had not prior. We had heavy guardrails on the CARES Act, which I supported. That was a time we weren't quite sure what this pandemic was going to be, but it required action. But since then, we've learned a lot about this virus, and we've also seen a lack of guardrails on new spending. Would you agree with that assessment, Mr. Jaffe?
Yes, I would.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for appearing to all our witnesses today. And Madam Chair, I yield.